Welcome to Primetime News. It's Wednesday, April 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Choi Yu-sun.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. As we find out more about what exactly happened at the time of the accident, anger continues to grow among families of the victims.
Our Yu-Lian joins us here in the studio to tell us more. Lian?
Good evening, guys. Let me just give you a brief recap of what exactly happened during the time of the accident based on what the Maritime Police has said. All 15 crew members, along with the captain, had been hiding in the steering room until the rescue team arrived. In that room, there were 16 lifeboats, but none of them was even touched, even though passengers in the room right across from the steering room was calling out for help and to be rescued. As soon as the rescue boats arrived, the crew were the first ones to get on, while a Coast Guard official got on the sinking ship and tried to release the life floats. The official was able to kick 2 of the life floats into the sea. Now, along with the comments from the Maritime Police, screenshots of the site of the accident confirm these reports, but they are claiming otherwise. Take a look.
We tried, but couldn't get near the life floats. We really did try, but it was so slippery that we couldn't get there.
So we're learning that 11 out of the 15 crew members have actually been arrested.
That's right. The crew members, including the captain, of course, have been taken into custody, with some of them possibly facing negligent homicide charges. The charge carries a 3-year jail sentence and is placed on those who have failed to carry out rescue operation, resulting in deaths. Now, as intense investigations continue, some of the crew have reportedly shown signs of regret, admitting to their mistakes, and some are receiving hospital treatment after conveying severe psychological distress.
Lian, it seems like everyone's passing along the blame. The families of the victims have been pointing their fingers at the government for its slow response, as well as crew members during and after the accident. And now the ferry's operator, the Cheonghae Marine Company, is under fire. Tell us more.
That's right. The prosecutors seem to think that the cause of the sinking of the ship has to do with its operator. Now, earlier this week, officials from the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said the Cheonghae Marine Company was negligent regarding safety checks on the ferry. Investigators are looking into the possibility that the practical owner, Yoo Byung-on, lobbied his way into getting out of those safety checks. A joint investigation team earlier today raided some 10 offices and homes of Yoo, as well as the headquarters of the Cheonghae Marine Company here in Seoul. Now, there's another investigation taking place simultaneously. The joint investigation team also began preparations for a simulation that takes into account wind, ocean currents, freight, and modifications made to the ship in order to figure out the exact cause of the accident. It announced that it will finish setting up a team of experts and will begin the process as early as tomorrow morning. Now, the Incheon Prosecution Office has also carried out a special inspection on the ferries anchored at the Incheon port, including checkups on the escape equipment, emergency drills, and also emergency exit doors.
All right, the picture continues to come together. Thank you, Leon, for that report.
No problem.
And staying with the investigation into the ferry sinking, another solid piece has been added to the puzzle of what may have caused the Sewol-ho ferry to capsize abruptly.
Only a few weeks ago, crew of the Sewol-ho ferry reported that the ship's steering unit was showing malfunction. Our Park Ji-won has details on how their repair request fell upon deaf ears.
This is a repair request form submitted by the crew of the Sewol-ho ferry to ferry operator Cheonghae Marine Company about 2 weeks before the tragic accident. It says the steering gear of the now sunken ferry was sending no voltage warnings. Crew members said they had to reset the power and rely on an onboard power supply while they were waiting for power to be restored. The request form added the fundamental cause of the issue was unknown. However, the ferry operator took no action on the issue. Korean broadcaster YTN reported Wednesday that a ship repair company that had worked on the Sewol-ho ferry before said it had not repaired the steering gear of the Sewol-ho ferry any time recently, nor had it received any repair requests about the steering gear. Experts say the steering gear is key to safe sailing for a ship, that any problem in the steering gear increases the likelihood of an accident, and that ships with steering system problems should be prevented from setting sail. However, Changhaejin Marine Company appears to have continued to allow the ill-fated Sewol-ho ferry to operate for more than 2 weeks, leading up to the accident last week. Park Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Down off Korea's southwestern coast, search and rescue operations are in its 8th day. Our correspondents are at Paengmokang Harbor, roughly 20 kilometers from where the ship capsized.
Hwang Sung-hee and Ji Myung-gil join us live now. Sung-hee, dozens of bodies were retrieved in overnight search operations, but still no word of a single survivor.
Sean, we are into our 8th day of search and rescue operations, but yes, not a single survivor has been found yet. But the official death toll continues to rise rapidly, the number currently at 157 now. Most of the bodies retrieved today are high school students. We still have around 150 people missing inside the sunken ship, and many of them, nearly 90% of them, are believed to be students of the Danwon High School. Now, the families of the missing camping out here at the Paengmokang Harbor are clinging onto their last shred of hope, but they are growing restless. Myung-gil, I heard that you had a chance to sit down with the father of one of the missing students.
Yes, Hung-hee, I got a chance to talk to a father whose son was on the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. He said that when he first received the news, he was assured by Danwon High School that his son was alive. He remained one of the missing.
My son was very gentle. He was a quiet boy and never disobeyed us. He would listen to all the things we would say to him as parents. He was very diligent and thoughtful. My son, I feel really sorry for the things I wasn't able to give you. Although sometimes I scolded you. That was because I loved you so much. I love you, Chungmin. It's heartbreaking to think of the horror you must have gone through.
The father said he wanted the sunken vessel to be lifted to the surface as soon as possible so that he could see his 18-year-old son for one last time.
Yes, the rescue teams are focusing their search on the 3rd and 4th floors of the vessel. That's where the cabins are, and the authorities believe that many of the passengers were in their cabins at the time of the accident, since it was around 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, this was backed up by a passenger who was on the Sewol-ho ferry. Let's take a listen.
I was rescued early, so I don't know the current situation. But based on what I saw, there were students on the 3rd and 4th floors, where the cabins are. They were told to wait, and that's why it became too late to rescue them.
He was one of the first to be rescued when the ferry started to list, but his wife still remains missing in the sunken ship.
That's right. 50 divers are working simultaneously using barges to search the 3rd and 4th floors of the vessel, like you said. 10 fishing boats are using powerful floodlights to help divers operate in the dark. About 900 flares will be used throughout the night. More than 200 rescue ships, 34 aircraft, and 550 divers are continuing their rescue operations. Unfortunately, high-tech drones like the remotely operated vehicle are not yielding many results.
Well, it's been a week since the tragedy, and messages of support are arriving at this harbor from across the nation. The messages read that we love you all and that miracle will happen. This was Hwang Sung-hee and Ji Myung-gil reporting from Paengmokang Harbor.
Thank you, guys. It's been a devastating week for the families of the missing. Many of those waiting for news had to do so with helplessness and agony in their hearts.
The families have been staying at a gymnasium near the accident site in Jindo, and they're at the brink of exhaustion, both physically and mentally. And Hwang Ji-ye joins us live from there. Ji-hye?
Guys, there are now fewer relatives here at the Jindo Gymnasium as more bodies are being discovered and identified. The families are leaving to tend to their loved ones at Paengmokang Harbor and to the hospital. The others that remain here are going back and forth from the gymnasium to the harbor about 2 times a day. As soon as the families confirm that the recovered bodies are their children, they rush out of the gymnasium looking very shaky and horrified. A representative of the families said today that the bodies will be transferred from the Pengmokang Harbor to hospitals by 4 military helicopters. He added that they will quicken the process of bodies being sent back home. There, the families could also ride along together. Guys?
How are the families coping with the passing hours, and how are authorities making sure they're safe?
Well, the families here seem like they're reaching the end of their patience as their unbearable waiting goes on for an 8th day. Doctors at the gymnasium say the families are in a state of panic, which is resulting in headaches and exhaustion. They add that while now is the worst time for the families to mentally cope with the devastating situation, the symptoms of depression could still recur even after 2 or 3 months. The atmosphere is very heavy, with many of the families just helplessly looking at a television screen showing a list of descriptions of the newly discovered bodies. This has been Hwang Ji-yeon reporting live from the Jindo Gymnasium.
All right, thank you, Ji-hye, and we'll be back shortly. It's been a strenuous week of mourning, not just for the family and friends of those who died aboard the sunken ferry, but for the entire nation, now reflecting on what this tragedy means.
Koreans are holding candlelight vigils, making donations on and offline, and trying to cope with this tragic incident together. Our Kim Ji-yeon is at one of the candlelight vigils that just recently ended.
Sean, Yuson, I'm standing in front of the Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall, where an altar has been set up so that the public can pay their respects to the fallen. As you can see behind me, portraits of 48 Danwon High School students and teachers are displayed. More than 8,000 people have come today to say their last goodbyes. In front of the Memorial Hall, people place post-it memos, letters to the deceased. I talked to one of them, 59-year-old Oh Chun-sik, who was born and raised in Ansan and has lived there his whole life.
I hope the students are in a better place, and I pray that their hopes and dreams that they had here are fulfilled there instead. I have an aching inside that cannot be put into words.
This is a temporary altar, and local authorities are setting a funeral in a larger location as more bodies are expected to arrive in the coming days. A group funeral will be held at Hwarang Recreational Park so that the public can say their last goodbyes starting Tuesday.
Ji-yeon, how have volunteers stepped up to help with the memorial arrangements?
Well, citizens from Ansan and volunteers from all over the country are coming here to lend a helping hand, bringing necessities and medical supplies.
To help support our community in this time of need, we have made all of our medicine and resources available to Danwon High School, and will continue to do so until the altar is removed.
And this could not have been possible without the help of the community. This shows that the nation is coming together in times of crisis.
Ji-yeon, how about the students and the student survivors? Are they going to be able to go home soon?
Well, the majority of the students are being released later this week. But some of the guardians of the students say that they want the students to stay in the hospital due to concerns of mental trauma. But in the high school, 50 counselors are on the ready so that they can provide regular counseling sessions and medications if they are needed. This was Kim Ji-yeon reporting live from Ansan Olympic Memorial Hall.
14 teachers from Danwon High School were on the ill-fated trip to the resort island of Jeju when the Sewol-ho ferry sank. On that Wednesday, when the ferry capsized, 3 teachers were rescued while 11 were missing.
One of those teachers who we know didn't make it was more concerned about her students than herself until the very end. Chun Soo-young is her name, and our Connie Lee has her story.
In the last desperate moments before the ship was going down, a daughter texts her mother, "Mom, the ship is sinking." In shock and in confusion, the mother calls her daughter, Chun Soo-young, right away.
얼른 구명조끼 입어 이렇게 했거든요. 그랬더니 엄마, 학생들은 입었어 이렇게 얘기를 하는 거예요. 그 말은 제가 지금 생각해 보면 학생들은 입혔는데 저는 못 입었다는 얘기죠.
To her boyfriend, Soo-young texts him that there are no life vests. "I'm sorry." The boyfriend calls her immediately, but they hang up after 12 seconds on the line. Soo-young tells him that she needs to call her students' parents.
배가 기울고 있는데 애들 빨리 입히고 챙겨야 된다고 그러더니 자기 배터리 없다고 지금 학부모 연락하고 애들 챙겨야 된다고 그러더니 끊는 거예요.
Her last words to her boyfriend, "I love you and thank you." It was Soo-young's second year as a homeroom teacher at Danwon High School. And as for the school's yearly field trip, this one to Jeju Island on the Sewol-ho ferry was her first. Her room remains untouched since the day she left for the ill-fated trip. Her bike, too, remains parked, waiting for Soo-young to return. Apparently, her grandmother is also waiting for her granddaughter to come home safely.
지금도 그 할머니는 우리 저 딸이 살아있는 줄 아세요. 뱃속에 들어있어서 안전하다고 그러시거든요. 계속 그렇게 믿고 계세요.
But as much as there is sadness over the loss, her mother is also proud of her daughter, who put the lives of her students before her own. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Anytime the presidents of South Korea and China talk, the topic of North Korea usually dominates the conversation. But the Sewol-ho ferry disaster was foremost on the minds of Presidents Park Geun-hye and Xi Jinping Wednesday when they spoke over the phone. Our Kim Ji-yeon has the details.
In a phone conversation Wednesday, President Park Geun-hye thanked Chinese leader Xi Jinping for his words of comfort to the victims of the ill-fated Sewol-ho ferry disaster and expressed sadness that some Chinese passengers were still among the missing. Xi said he was also deeply saddened by the fact that the majority of the missing and deceased were young students. He added that his thoughts were with the victims and their families. The Chinese president also said that Beijing will provide search and rescue assistance to Seoul. The two leaders also talked about North Korea. President Park urged her Chinese counterpart to dissuade Pyongyang from carrying out a 4th nuclear test, saying it would change the security paradigm in Northeast Asia. Park said another nuclear test could start an arms race and create a nuclear domino effect in the region. North Korea carried out nuclear tests in 2006, 2009, and 2013. President Park added that a 4th test could also hamper efforts to resume the stalled multinational talks aimed at denuclearizing North Korea. She reassured Park that both nations share the same interest of a denuclearized North Korea. He said that Beijing would do its best to help maintain peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. The Chinese leader added that he would encourage dialogue between the related parties and also express support for the trust-building process initiated by Park and for a peaceful reunification of the two Koreas. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
North Korea has sent a message of condolence for the victims of South Korea's sunken ferry. The Unification Ministry in Seoul says the message was sent by the North Korean Red Cross and was delivered through the Inter-Korean Channel at the cruise village of Panmunjom Wednesday afternoon. In it, Pyongyang expressed deep sorrow for those who lost their lives or are still missing from last week's ferry disaster. The last time the North sent such a message was back in 2003 when a massive fire in a subway in the city of Daegu resulted in some 370 casualties and after a typhoon killed over 100 people.
Well, despite Pyongyang's gesture of condolence, North Korea is fully prepared to conduct another nuclear test, according to the South Korean government. With U.S. President Barack Obama on his Asia tour this Wednesday, there's been fresh speculation that Pyongyang may attempt to make a statement while he's in the region. Shin Se-min has more on whether that expression will take the form of a fourth nuclear test.
South Korea's defense ministry says North Korea is ready to conduct a nuclear test at any time. In a press briefing Wednesday, a Ministry of National Defense official said the North Punggye-ri nuclear test site appears to be on standby with an open ticket in hand. This would run counter to what a recent report by the U.S.-based North Korea analysis site 38 North suggests. It says it's unlikely that the regime will carry out a fourth nuclear test while U.S. President Barack Obama is visiting the region over the next week. The report cited analysis of satellite imagery, which indicates the recent activities at the nuclear site differ from those leading up to past tests. But a Korean official said the data on the 38 North website is different from what the government has. The U.S. says it is keeping close watch on movements in the North amid speculation that it may carry out a fourth nuclear test. Speaking to reporters on Air Force One, White House spokesman Jay Carney said the U.S. is monitoring movements at the North Punggye-ri nuclear test site. The U.S. State Department echoed Carney's sentiment and urged North Korea to exercise restraint.
We continue to urge North Korea to refrain from actions that threaten regional peace and security and to comply with its international obligations and commitments.
Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Weather conditions on Chindo continue to be moderate, but things may take a turn over the weekend.
For details, our Kim Bo-kyung now joins us here in the studio. Bo-kyung, fill us in.
Well, guys, all efforts must be put into rescue operations through Friday as showers and strong winds are on the way this weekend. At the moment, there is some relief now that wind speed has dropped to about 2.5 meters per second. This is about 1/5 of the speed we got yesterday at this time of the day. Waves continue to remain calm at 0.6 meters. Tidal currents are moving at an average rate of about 1.6 meters per second. However, that should further drop to 0.5 meter per second 4 times tomorrow at 3:17 a.m., 10:17 a.m., 4:8 p.m. that is, and 9:52 p.m. So more progress can be made at those times. Otherwise, the weather on Chindo for tomorrow looks to be better than today. Sunny skies are forecast with calm waves and breezy winds. That's all for now, and I'll be back with the latest after midnight.
Thank you, Bo-kyung. And those are the stories we're following at this hour. I'm Choi Yu-sun in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Stay tuned for the latest on the ongoing sunken ferry rescue operation or find us online at arirang.co.kr. We'll see you soon.